we might be at the end of democracy in America. I'm very sorry to say. I've said that before. Why am I saying it this time? Dominion voting machines has been bought out by Republican partisans in an agreement that also led to them dropping their multi-billion-dollar lawsuits against institutions like, I believe, OAN, not Newsmax. Maybe it's OAN and Newsmax. Rudy Giuliani and what was her name? The Kraken. Remember one of Trump's lawyers, the Kraken? What's her name? Come on, she called herself the Kraken. She's a laughably incompetent lawyer. Only interest in aura farming. Sidney Powell, thank you very, very much. Here we go. No, it's quite bad. It's quite bad, I'm sorry to say. Former GOP election official buys Dominion voting system, says he'll push for paper ballots. So essentially, they're hardlining the partisan angle right away. It's a pretty common conspiracy theory among the right that the electronic voting, not internet, but via a machine, contributes in some way to the unverifiability of a voting tally. So it's pretty obvious who they're signaling to. Dominion Voting Systems is being sold and rebranded as Liberty Vote, effective immediately. Scott Leyendecker, the founder of a Missouri-based election technology company who previously served as the Republican director for the St. Louis City Board of Elections. Again, this guy isn't just a Republican. His job was being a Republican supervisor for city elections. Purchased the company this week for an undisclosed sum. Really curious about that undisclosed sum. Dominion voting machines, not exactly, Dominion voting, not exactly a small company, worth a lot of money, also had multi-billion-dollar lawsuits running against multiple, Trump-related institutions and people. You know what I think? I think they were forced into this. I think that the Trump administration directly had a conversation with Dominion and was like, no, you're out. We will annihilate you if you're not out. Can anyone think of a better explanation for this? Seriously, can somebody think? Dominion voting was not kowtowing to the right. They were suing the people who lied about them. As of today, Dominion is gone. Liberty Vote assumes full ownership and operational control. Leyendecker says he wants to use the renamed company to restore public confidence in the U.S. electoral process. Liberty now also vows to be bipartisan as it works to reshape Dominion's image. Dominion's election products were used by millions of U.S. voters across 27 states last year. Dominion's founder and CEO, John Poulos, so this is the guy who just sold the company, confirmed in a one-sentence statement provided to CNN on Thursday that, quote, Liberty Vote has acquired Dominion Voting Systems. Does that sound like a consensual exchange to you? That's all he has to say? Former owner of Dominion Voting, Liberty Vote has acquired our company. Do you have a statement to make on this massive... You're dropping multiple multi-billion-dollar lawsuits. You were at the center of a entire election conspiracy, and now suddenly, for an undisclosed sum, you're selling your company to a partisan Republican who used to work for the Republican voting board at a city level. What do you have to say about that? They bought us. Goodbye. Well, that just happened. Didn't they get $700 million from Fox News? Why does he need to sell? But I'm telling you, the DOJ directly threatened him. I guarantee you, there's no other way. Keep in mind that right now, the Trump administration has basically been going haywire with punishing corporations, threatening lawsuits, filing lawsuits, export tariffs, which are unconstitutional, which he threatened with Intel and AMD, nationalizing portions of those companies in exchange for not imposing those export tariffs, or I guess that's in a way its own tariff. Jesus Christ. Why can't Dems threaten corporations? To be clear, by the way, all of this is unambiguously illegal, okay? We don't have any information here on how this is illegal. We don't know any of the details. I'm telling you right now it's illegal. There is no way what is happening was not in some way pressed by the administration, and in a fair democracy, this shouldn't be able to happen, Leaving aside the problem with a private company running the voting machines to begin with, obviously, we're not stupid here, we know that's bad. But even in that context, there's just no excuse for this. Vosh, I'm pretty sure they lost a lot of clientele after the 2020 election, and the company is basically not picking up government contracts afterwards. So even if they bought it, there's a good chance that they're just not going to be selected anyway. Now, I guarantee you that this acquisition was done in concert with the expectation that they get those contracts anyway. Guarantee you. Yeah, 100, that's just the pressure right there. We're not accepting you at these locations unless you sell. That's the same thing they did for TikTok. TikTok also is being purchased by like insane right-wing Zionist Palantir types. States control elections though. Yeah, but red states work directly in tandem with the federal government right now, right? Like they're coordinating to the extent that Texas is sending its own National Guard to Chicago. Like the federal government is more than willing to, like, maybe Dominion couldn't stay afloat without those red state contracts, or maybe, you know, just because we think of it as a red state, blue state thing, we also don't know the details of these available contracts in blue states in many cases. And by we, I mean I don't know the details of all of them. More information will probably arise on this in the future. I'm sure some investigative reporter will look into like the nature of these contracts, the threats, and we're probably going to see a bunch of these contracts get renewed now that they've been bought by, you know, the Republican partisan. We'll see. But I'm going to assume it's foul play. I think it's fair for me to. The company's new owner laid out 4 goals, many of which align with the Trump administration, and which they argue will restore trust in U.S. elections, the main being a heavy emphasis on paper ballots. The sale of Dominion comes as Trump has repeatedly insisted he plans to overhaul America's election systems, from wanting to move the U.S. to all paper ballots, require voter ID in all elections, and restrict mail-in voting. Liberty Vote also plans on ensuring the company is, quote, 100% American-owned, including all domestic staffing and software development, the release states. Dominion was founded as a Canadian company with offices in Toronto, Denver, and Dallas. Look, this is the website. LibertyVote.com. This used to be the Dominion website. My fellow Americans, today I am proud to announce Liberty Vote, a 100% American-owned election technology company dedicated to restoring trust in our elections. Our mission is clear. Every vote must be secure, fair, and verifiable. I've spent my entire life working to strengthen America's elections. That commitment began years ago in the aftermath of the 2000 election when I worked for the Missouri Secretary of State. Later, as election director in St. Louis, I led the effort to modernize outdated systems and rebuild public trust. Eventually, I founded an election technology company that today serves nearly 1 in 4 voters nationwide. Does this seem to you like a normal thing that a election company would do? Like, normally, a company that presides over election voter registration or vote counting technology, I feel like they would put every possible effort into not looking partisan. Like, this is literally the most dangerous place you could ever see partisanship. From the guy selling the machines that count your vote. I do like, though, that they chose a picture of the Washington Monument where all the U.S. flags at the base are half-mast, as though we're celebrating, like, perhaps the death of American democracy. You guys know the Washington Monument's huge, right? I mean, like, everyone knows it's huge, but until I was near the Washington Monument, you really don't get perspective to the fact that none of these American flags are normal flag-sized. All of these American flags right here at the bottom, these tiny ones, are actually massive themselves. It's just like a perspective bit. You'd expect them to be, like, half that size. It's a huge obelisk, yeah. Wait, so votes in USA aren't actually managed by the USA? Well, the rules of every election are managed by the states. The states have, as long as they follow like a simple set of rules, the states are allowed to make their own determinations about how they collect the votes. And then, of course, it's not actually the votes that get counted towards the presidential election. It's the electoral count, but that's only for the presidential. The votes have to be tallied, and for tallying them, there are private companies that build and sell systems that they contract with those state governments, so the votes get counted. Electronic systems, ones that like really quickly count paper ballots. There's a variety of ways it's done. But yes, typically, those are private companies. I think there might be like some publicly owned infrastructure there, but I think for the most part, it's private companies. How do you become an election commissioner in the U.S.? Well, he was in a partisan position, so if you don't need to have any specific qualifications to be the Republican vote. What was his title? Republican director for the St. Louis City Board of Elections. You just represent the Republican Party at the City Board of Elections. So yeah, your job essentially is to be there and to make sure that they're not cheating against you, but rather in your favor. Why is our democracy run like this? I didn't fucking pour the soy sauce into the bowl. Don't fucking bother me about this shit. I don't know, because of capitalism. What do you want? It was rhetorical, my bad. Well, it was facetious, my bad. In Germany, it gets done by volunteers. It does over here, too. We also have volunteers that that work at election offices. Remember, a lot of them got death threats back in 2020. My beautiful partner really earning that moment later today when I tell them they're paying for dinner. Dominion was a little-known election vendor before 2020. Exactly what do the machines do then? There are a lot of different machines provided by a lot of different companies, and they do a lot of different things. Usually, votes are, pardon me if I'm wrong, this varies state by state. Usually, votes are hand counted. There are paper ballots, and they're hand counted. You have them literally in like big bins, and they have to manually count through everything. But usually, there's a machine backup, right? The point is, you get a machine check, and then you make sure the hand count like validates it. And the reason that's valuable is because that way, like, it's very, very, very difficult to fake something across both of those systems. Like, it's really difficult to get the same faked number if the machine tallies like 117,000 or something, and then the humans tally exactly that same amount. It's like, how the fuck do you fake that? You would need to coordinate that incredibly well or have like multiple points of compromise, basically. But it varies state to state. It's complicated. I don't even know. Like, California takes forever. I don't fucking know. Arizona takes forever. So how would this help them cheat in 2026? Well, let's think. The big one for me would be them falsely claiming that their own machines have been tampered with if the result in a given voting district doesn't align with what the Republican Party wants. So basically, the Republicans will say, hey, we lost in this area. There must be cheating afoot. And Liberty Vote will say, you're right. We think there might have been somebody tampering with these machines. We're going to take them down and investigate immediately, thereby providing more fuel to the Republicans and potentially giving them more, leeway or more like groundwork for future fuckery, that kind of thing. That would be my guess. I thought they were eliminating the machines with this acquisition. No, they sell the machines, but there are machines that can read the paper ballots. I mean, the problem is they have no authority or power to do that. It's entirely state controlled. Well, no, they do have the authority and power to say, we think it's been tampered with. They can do that because that's just a PR thing, right? They'd be lying, but they can do that if they want. And by having, like, I do think that it was good that Dominion voting back in 2020 said, no, we are not flipping millions of votes to Democrat, fuck you, rather than them saying, you're right, we think that a seditious Chinese hacker might have switched the votes or something. You know what I mean? It is true, though, that I don't think there's anything that the Liberty Vote machines can do to directly alter the vote. That's just very, very difficult, It's why I tend not to believe in any conspiracy theories about 2024, like Elon directly changing the votes in any of those states. It could have happened. Maybe, but like people say stuff like, don't you think it's a coincidence that in all 7 swing states Trump won by just enough people to not flip the auto recount, which for one is a lie, but for two, like, do you have any idea how difficult it would be to falsify votes in that many voting districts across the country without there being any verifiable evidence even a year after the fact? That would be, he's not that smart. I don't think anyone is. That's crazy. It's not like people haven't tried to falsify votes before. It's incredibly difficult to do at scale. It's easy enough for one person to lie about their vote or to vote twice or something if they finagle or whatever. But to do it on any kind of systemic level? No, I don't think so. I saw Alex Gross. It's one of the reasons why I'm not typically a big fan of those conspiracy theories. Also, the narrative that they cheated in 2024 feeds into the delusional liberal narrative that they did everything right, actually. Yes, I'm principally against any interpretation of 2024 that does not lead to like all of Democratic leadership symbolically getting on their knees and committing seppuku, like I do not want anyone to come away from that thinking like, actually Kamala Harris and Schumer did everything they could have, and it was really just the system that failed them. I never got the whole vote switching conspiracy. If you were to go after anything, it'd be the voter roll purges, which they do. They do for millions of people, and people don't talk about it enough. Like, that's the real, like, Texas literally just removed hundreds of thousands of legally registered black and brown, mostly, voters. They did so in a bunch of red states, They love doing that shit. They're just like, we think there was a speck of dust on our keyboard and we hit the delete key accidentally. Whoops! Like, they don't even try. That's actual electoral interference. You don't have to finagle with any bullshit like they switch the votes, you know? You should re-sign up to vote every single year if you are a Democrat in a red state. What does registering to vote actually mean? Okay, to any non-Americans watching, you're not going to believe this, but even if you're born an American citizen, when you turn 18, you don't automatically have the right to vote. For some reason, you have to fill out a form and send it to the government to let them know that you're ready to vote, even though the government already knows that. And you have to update it every time you move. So if you move houses, even like in the same city, you have to fill out the form again in order to vote, the fundamental right that props up a democracy. Isn't that bureaucratic waste? Doge should get on that. Yeah. Yeah, the fact that we managed to get a 180 million person turnout for the election is a miracle, considering the bullshit we put people through, you know? The fact that if you move, like, you have to, yeah, I don't know. In Canada, when you fill out your tax return, it registers you to vote. Yeah, wouldn't that be nice? How long in advance do people have to register? Well, it depends on the state. Can the registration easily fail, or is it an easy process? Well, it should be a shoo-in. It should be. But people often get deregistered, and, like, stuff happens. So, you know, is it related to being registered for a party? No, no relation. Being registered to vote is something you do with your state government. Being registered for a party is an agreement between you and a private organization. It's very straightforward in many states unless your name changes. You shouldn't have to do it at all. There literally should be no, it's like filling out a tax return. There should be literally no reason to need to do it at all. The only thing a tax return should be to 99% of Americans is like an envelope full of receipts for shit you had to pay for that was not your fault, that you then send to the IRS, and then they send you money back with an apology note. Like, that should be filing your taxes. Maybe it'd be different for us sole proprietors, admittedly, but for most people, that's all it should be. That's what it is everywhere else in the world. I know.